In case anybody doesn't know, my name is Jordan Thorson. I'm a communications specialist with UFHR Communications and Work Life. And today joining us is Abigail Luce, who is the GatorCare Wellbeing Program Supervisor, and she's going to talk a bit about Deskercise, and we're going to have a bit of an interactive element with that as well. Just before we start, this webinar is being recorded, so that being said, if you want to keep your cameras off, that is perfectly fine. We do also ask that everyone remain muted throughout the presentation just to avoid any accidental interruptions. And this recording will be made available on our UF at Work YouTube channel as well as the Work Life at UF website. And I can put those links in the chat a little later on, but those will be available in the next week or so. Anything else for questions? Again, we're probably going to be a bit more interactive today, so I'm sure we'll be able to answer some questions as they come up. But if you do have a question and we aren't able to get to it, we will have a little formal time at the end to answer up any of those questions. And other than that, I think we are good to go. So Abby, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Hey, thank you, Jordan, and thank you all for joining today. I'm so envious to see all the fun 4th of July plans. That's great. I don't really have many plans myself, so I'm looking forward to some rest and relaxation. But today I'm super excited to join you all and talk about Deskercise, or that is exercising, getting some movement in your desk space or at work. And so today we're going to be talking all about the benefits of physical activity. We're going to talk about different guidelines for physical activity, how our work life has changed, and some practical ways to incorporate some exercise into our day. And as Jordan mentioned, this is going to be fairly interactive. So we're going to actually do some exercises towards the end of this presentation to give you guys something to utilize moving forward. And so starting off here, I just liked this quote here. Dear chair, it's not me, it's you, it's over. So we're going to talk about how we have become more sedentary in our day-to-day lives, and especially how the workforce has changed to kind of engineer out exercise and activity, and then how to incorporate some of that back in. So I mentioned kind of what we're going to go over here. And then we're going to start off just talking about the benefits of physical activity. So I'm sure none of this really comes as a surprise to you all. Physical activity, it can help reduce our chances of certain health diseases and chronic conditions. It can improve, obviously, our physical well-being, including reducing our blood cholesterol, our blood pressure. It increases our cardiovascular endurance. Having muscle on our body actually helps boost bone strength as well, which is especially important as we age and especially important for women as well. Our bodies tend to lose muscle mass and bone mass as we age. So having some strength training and physical activity can help prevent some of the loss of bone and muscle. Also, it has benefits on our emotional health and well-being. So it can help reduce our stress, improve our focus, our mood, our energy. It helps us think better, helps us learn better. It actually improves our judgment skills as well. One thing I want to point out here, which I think is especially important and really cool, if none of those other things speak to you, physical activity actually boosts our metabolism even when we're resting. So what that means is if we have a higher level of physical activity baseline, when we're resting and we're not actually in the moment doing any physical activity, where our bodies are burning more calories, most likely because we've improved our body composition a little bit to have more muscle and less fat. So we're burning more calories. Our metabolism is just working more effectively, which helps us overall stay healthy and well. So again, I'm sure none of this comes to us as a surprise to you all, but a lot of times as Americans, we don't get the recommended amount of physical activity. And this becomes especially important as we age. And so what are the recommendations? So this is taken from the CDC and the National Institute of Health, and they recommend that every American get at least 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity aerobic activity. So what does that actually look like? Moderate intensity aerobic activity could be things that get your heart rate up more than just a leisurely walk. So that could be brisk walking, it could be biking, swimming, playing basketball, tennis, gardening, anything like that that you enjoy that helps increase your heart rate. Additionally, on top of these 150 minutes a week, they also recommend having at least 2 days a week of muscle strengthening activity. And so most of the time when we think of muscle strengthening activity, we think about lifting weights in the gym. And certainly that's a great way to add resistance and strengthen our muscles. But that doesn't have to be the only form of muscle strengthening activities. We can definitely just use body weight exercises. We can use resistance bands, and we can even do different things out in the world that are going to use our body weight and picking up things. Maybe we're gardening and we're picking up heavy loads of soil to dump into our raised beds. Things like that are all muscle strengthening activities. And what's really cool about this is you don't have to get all of these minutes at the same time a day. So you don't necessarily have to go to the gym 30 minutes a day and do it all at once. This accumulates over time. So this 150 minutes a week breaks down to about 30 minutes, 5 days out of the week. But that can look like doing 10 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity in the morning. It could break down and then 10 minutes at lunch, 10 minutes in the afternoon, and there's your 30 minutes. It could be a little 5 minute, part of your lunch break here. Maybe you have a 15-minute break in the afternoon and some other time to go to the gym after work. So you can break it down and it all adds up and actually reaches these recommendations. Of course, when we speak about physical activity, these are recommendations for a reason. So before you start any sort of intense physical activity routine, we always recommend you speak with your doctor, especially being aware if you have any chronic health conditions like diabetes or arthritis, heart disease, anything like that that might be a barrier to starting physical activity. Or if you currently are very sedentary and not doing much physical activity as well, we just encourage you starting a little bit at a time. This is the recommendation to build up to, but what might happen if you are very sedentary and not doing much activity at all baseline, and you start trying to do 30 minutes of really intense aerobic activity right away, can actually be more detrimental or may have some more negative effects and risk some safety as well. So it's important to start small and be realistic with yourself and then work up to these recommendations. So we as humans are made to move, and yet exercise has really been engineered out of our day-to-day lives. So maybe by interacting with the chat, you can use reactions or you can drop a reaction in the chat. How many of you remember when work meant actual manual labor, so blood, sweat, and tears? Yeah, so some of us here are agreeing they do remember that. I would say in my lifetime, that's not as prevalent. When I think of manual labor, I feel like it's not as maybe intense or physically intense as it once was. Of course, there are certain careers, but at one point, definitely our manual labor type jobs were a lot more manual, right? So we've had a lot of technology that's been built into our lives to make our lives easier. And of course, that comes with a lot of pros, but also just naturally has started to decrease our physical activity as a nation. And so just thinking about some of those things that maybe have come into our lives in the last few decades, what are some things that you guys can note that maybe have led to the replacement of physical activity or have taken some of that physical activity out of our lives? So maybe some examples could be, technology, elevators, cell phones. What other things do you guys think have changed in the last couple decades that has decreased our physical activity day to day? yeah, computers, cars, delivery, remote work. That's a really good one. Streaming services, yeah, couch lock, cell phones. Yeah, these are all great examples. And I totally agree. I mean, if we think back in the day, at one point we were having to physically go out and find our food source. Probably there was some cleaning and preparation that had to happen before we could even enjoy that food. And now, I mean, some people were mentioning delivery services. Now it's as easy as a click of a button on our phone and it's brought right to us, and we don't even have to do anything outside of just walking to our door. And so this is just a common theme we're seeing. And again, not necessarily technology isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it definitely has made us more aware, and we do have to be more intentional about adding that physical activity back into our lives. And so we're starting to notice with this decrease in occupations that require a lot of physical labor, we're noticing that Americans' health and well-being are slightly, we're increasing the risk for different diseases and things that might be once not even a thing we were considering because we had a lot of physical activity in our lives. And so, even though some of us might stay active, I do like to mention this because I think it's a very interesting fact or food for thought. So, even though we might be active, we might be reaching that recommendation of 150 minutes of activity per week plus the 2 days of strength training. There's also been research that is saying because we're more sedentary, that is actually increasing mortality rates as well. So there was actually a Canadian research study done on a variety of different ages between 18 and 90 years old. And they studied sitting versus mortality rates over a 12-year period. And what they found is that there's a correlation between increased sitting time and increased mortality rates. And so what this means is that sitting for a long period of time, prolonged periods of time, can actually compromise our metabolic health and of course can hinder us reaching those movement recommendations that we talked about. And so what's really important to keep in mind is taking breaks from sitting throughout our day and maybe incorporating some Deskercise, which we are going to talk about in depth today. So there's some different tips that you can use to help increase physical activity at work. Of course, I think the main thing that I hear from people that are struggling with reaching those physical activity recommendations is I don't have enough time. And I totally understand that. However, remember, physical activity can be accumulated throughout the day. So maybe 3 10-minute sessions here and there. And that's giving you the same benefits and reaching towards that recommendation of the 30 minutes just per one session. So here are some different activities or tips to help increase your physical activity at work. So taking the stairs over the elevator when possible, parking further out in the parking lot or further away from your office so that you have to walk into work. Walking to the furthest restroom, printer, fax machine, just taking a couple laps, maybe when you get up and naturally take that break is also a great way to help increase your steps throughout the day. Going for a lunch and burn. So when you take your lunch break, incorporating some sort of physical activity into that lunch break as well. Walking down the hall to talk to a person instead of sending them a Teams chat or a Slack message. Of course, talk with your office to see what the correct and the appropriate culture is with that. But that's also an option to walk and actually go talk to a person face to face instead of sending an instant message. And then using fitness facilities that are provided to you. And then if not, of course, incorporating things that are maybe low cost and easily accessible. I think resistance bands are a really great way to do that in an office setting. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But I think another important piece to this is incorporating other people. Make this a social thing so you have some accountability. So maybe if you go for a lunch and burn, invite someone else to do it with you. And then you guys can keep each other accountable. And it overall improves the morale in the workplace as well. So some other things to keep in mind, I briefly mentioned this before, but if you are currently sedentary, don't really have a whole lot of physical activity in your life right now, that's okay, but I encourage you to start slow. So doing things that, of course, you feel comfortable with, things that aren't causing you any sort of pain. And then another really important thing to do before you do any sort of physical activity is to warm up your muscles and stretch. Before you do a workout, it's great to do dynamic stretches, and we'll talk more, and I'm going to give you some examples of that shortly. When you are stretching after a workout, you want to hold stretches and not bounce into stretches. That just can increase your risk for injury. If you're at work and maybe you're not wearing flat shoes, consider removing those shoes and then evaluating the physical environment around you. So if you're going to use a desk or a chair to aid yourself in some of these exercises, just make sure you evaluate the stability of those things. And again, get your coworkers involved. This is a really great thing to do with other people and make it a social thing that helps you stay accountable. And some other things I like to throw in here too, because we don't always have the luxury of being able to move the entire day, especially if you work at a desk. That it makes sense. You're going to have some periods of sitting. So when you are sitting down, practicing proper ergonomics can help protect your physical health and well-being. So keeping your chair at the proper height, you want to make sure your feet are flat on the ground and that you're in a 90-90-90 position. So what we mean by that is that your ankles are at a 90-degree angle, your knees are at a 90-degree angle, and your hips are at a 90-degree angle. So that keeps everything in line and helps reduce some strain on your back and your hips. And then making sure you have some lumbar support in your chair is a really great thing. And of course, just the proper fit of a chair. So if we're talking about this chair for me right now, it's a little to the armrests are a little too low because we want to be able to support our elbows on an armrest as well. So those are just some tips to keep in mind if you are sitting throughout the day. So this is the interactive portion of this presentation. We are actually going to do some Deskercises, and we're going to start with a warm-up, and then we're going to talk about lower body, upper body, core, and cardio exercises that you can do at your desk and with no resources. So before we get started, of course, everything that I'm going to show to you is an offering to you. Feel free to follow along, or you can do whatever modifications feel best for you. Of course, if you feel any pain, just discontinue that movement or do a modification that feels better for your body. You know yourself best, so just take this slow and do what feels good for you. So if you're able, go ahead and join me standing. We are going to start with a little warm up with some stretches. And so on our next inhale, we're going to breathe in, reach up towards the sky, stretch up towards the ceiling, and then I'm going to grab the left wrist with my right hand and gently reach up and over. So we're stretching through our side body here. This is great to open up our lungs before we start any sort of activity. Stretching out the muscles that surround our lungs. And then we're going to reach back up towards the ceiling. And on our next exhale, bring it over to the other side, gently pulling on the right wrist to reach up and over. Starting to take some deeper breaths here as well. We can relax our arms. You can sit down for this next one, or you can remain standing. We're going to do some torso twists. So with our feet about hip width apart, I'm going to keep my hips, knees, and toes facing forward. So they're going to be stationary as we use our core to turn and twist our upper body. So we're warming up our core muscles. We're helping engage our core to stabilize so we don't injure our spine or our back. And also just lubricating some of those muscles and the joints and everything in our back, upper body. Let's do one more to each side and come back to a neutral position. And we're going to do some half squats. You can use a chair if you'd like. You don't have to. This just helps you maintain proper form and, stop before you get into a full squat. So I'll kind of turn sideways so you guys can see, but we're gonna set up with our feet about hip width apart again. Our toes are gonna track outside of our knees a little bit. So they're kind of at a 45-degree angle. And then we're gonna keep our body upright, our chest up, and we're gonna squat till our bum touches the chair and stand back up. So we're not going into a full deep squat. We're just doing a little half squat to warm up our lower body. And again, you can move as slow or as quickly as you want through this. Just make sure that you're controlling your movement. And we're activating our glutes as we push through our heels and stand up. And let's do one more. And then our little cardio warm up here is a 30-second jog in place. So you can do that, or if you didn't feel comfortable doing that, you can also take a lap, walk around. For the sake of this webinar, of course, we're in one spot. So we're just gonna do a little jog for a few seconds here. You may also choose to do any other sort of cardio, maybe jumping jacks or some jump squats, anything like that, or even just light jumping. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, great job. So hopefully we're feeling our heart rate is up a little bit, and we're gonna get started with some lower body Deskercises. So maybe some of you didn't know we would be working out today, but we're gonna be showing you some of these as an example of how you can use them in an office setting. So one could be a wall sit. If you have access to a wall, we can do that together. If you don't, I'll offer a modification. So if you have access to a wall, what we're gonna do for a wall sit is we're gonna lean up against the wall, and I might have to move a little bit forward here. And then we're gonna step our feet out until we can sit down with our back flat against the wall and our body at a 90-degree angle or parallel to the floor. We don't have to hold this for long before we start to feel our quads fire, our cores engaged. So we could simply hold it here for maybe 15 seconds. If you're in an office setting, what's great, maybe you're printing something and you're waiting for all your copies to print and you have a wall accessible, you could sit in a wall squat. All right, you can go ahead and stand up. If you don't have access to a wall, of course, lunges or squats are a really great thing to do. So again, setting up into that same position we talked about earlier. Feet are a little bit wider than hip width apart here. Toes are still tracking outward, so they're at a 45-degree angle. And then we're gonna sit back as if we're sitting onto a chair and stand up, pushing through our heels. So this is a great one to do as well. Let's do 5 squats together. So 3, 2, and one more. All right, great job. Moving into some calf raises. This is a really good one to do at your desk because you don't have to move. You can simply just raise up onto your toes. So I'm holding on to something for balance, which I prefer with this one. We're not really focused too much on our balance with this exercise. It truly is just rising up onto our toes. So we're using our calf muscles. And if this feels too easy for you, you could also pick up one leg and do one side at a time. So we're keeping a slight bend in our knees and just rolling up onto our toes, squeeze that calf muscle at the top, and then gently come back down. Let's do one more. Great job. All right, static desk lunges. The word static here can mean a couple different things. One, it could mean you're not traveling any, so we're just simply lunging down and then pushing back up. Or if you'd like to hold it, you could also do some pulses. So that's another variation of this. We're pushing through our heel, the front heel, on our way up. Another thing to think about when we're doing lunges is that we're stepping back onto train tracks and not a balance beam. So we want to have a little bit of distance between our feet. So again, setting up in a lunge here, pushing one leg back, dropping our knee towards the floor. So we barely tap the floor and then pushing through that front heel. I was talking during the first side, so let's just do a few to try to even it out. Let's do one more. And then make sure you guys have done the same amount on both sides, or about the same amount. All right, the glute squeeze and the wooden leg exercises. These are things you can do sitting down. So maybe you don't have the room to stand up and do those things we just talked about. What's great, glute squeeze, is you can literally do it sitting down. You don't have to move at all or really think about it too much. So we're going to be sitting in our chair. Maybe we're typing and doing some work, and we're simply just going to squeeze our glutes, just engaging those glute muscles. We're kind of building our own resistance here. So another form of resistance training that doesn't require any sort of weight or dumbbells, anything like that. And then the last one here is wooden legs. So that is this last picture on the slide here. We're gonna sit in our chair. You can either rest your arms on your armrest, or in the picture, she's grabbing the bottom of the chair. You could do that as well. We're gonna sit up nice and tall, nice flat spine, and we're going to pick up one leg at a time. So you'll notice just this motion. We're having to fire up our quads. Even though we're not using any sort of resistance or weight, we're still having to use these muscles. We're getting the blood flowing to our legs, from our feet, back up to our heart. Let's do one more on the right side and go ahead and switch. So a great one to do if you're in a meeting and you physically can't leave your space. Most of the time, if you're on a Zoom call, you're never going to see your legs. So you could definitely be doing something like this just to keep movement and build some more physical activity into your day. Let's do one more. All right. Hope we're feeling good. Those are our lower body exercises. Maybe take a sip of water if you need it. And then we're going to move on to upper body. So with our upper body Deskercises, some of these pictures you'll see people are using water bottles or a dumbbell. Again, you don't need those things. It's great to help add resistance and add weight, but you can do things, these same exercises without anything. So if we're starting with tricep dips, this one might not be something you all could do right now, and that's okay. I'm just going to demonstrate it for you. If you have a sturdy chair that does not roll, so not this one, but if you had a stationary chair like the one in the picture, I would suggest propping it up against a wall like there is in the picture. Or if you have a sturdy desk that you feel comfortable putting your whole body weight on, you could do some tricep dips. If you don't have those things, you could also do these on the ground. You would just sit on the ground with your hands behind you and do some dips that way. So I'm just going to demonstrate what this would look like in case you do have the equipment and the stability to do that. We're going to walk our feet out in front of us with our fingers pointing towards our body. And then we're going to dip to about a 90-degree angle and come back up. The further away our feet are, the harder it is. The closer, the easier it is. So you can modify this one very easily to fit your needs. Do one more here. And move on to arm circles. Arm circles are great because, again, you don't need any weight. You can use a water bottle or any other weighted object if you want. But we're just going to do, let's go 30 seconds of arm circles here. So we're just making tight, small circles with our arms out to our sides. You'll notice that even just after 15 to 30 seconds, our shoulders are definitely going to start to feel it. So we're making small circles. The smaller and tighter these circles are, the harder it is because we're having to use more control, more stability muscles. Also, when we're doing anything upright like this, we're engaging our core muscles so we don't rock or shift weight back and forth to each foot. Keep going here. Let me check the time. All right, 3, 2, 1. We're actually going to switch directions. Keep those arms up. We're gonna do another 30 seconds here. Maybe you're starting to feel the burn. I'm definitely starting to feel it in my shoulders already. And this one in particular, I mean, this is just a minute of keeping our arms up, and you can definitely start to feel it. So definitely makes you feel like you're doing something productive and is a good way to add in some physical activity. Keep going. We're ending in 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and relax, shake it out. That was great. The next one we have here are wall or desk push-ups. These are also great if you are trying to, oops, I'm sorry guys, I was trying to scroll through our chat here. We'll come back to that. Wall or desk push-ups are really great if you're trying to build up to a full floor push-up as well. So we are going to do a couple of those. Again, if you have the ability to, you can join me. If not, that's okay. I'll just demonstrate so you know what to do if you do ever have the ability to. So what we're going to do is place our hands about shoulder width apart with our fingers pointing forward and step our feet back. Same thing if we're on a wall, desk or a wall. We're going to keep our core engaged, and as a straight, rigid body, we're going to drop our chest towards the wall or the desk and push back up. There's a couple variations of push-ups you guys can do. I'm doing more of a tricep push-up, so the shoulders are coming in tight to the body, or you could have your elbows go out, and that's going to focus more on your chest muscles. Let's do one more. So just doing 5 to 10 desk or wall push-ups, really great to help build that upper body strength. Next up, we have desk rows, or in this picture, she's using a chair. So I'm going to use a chair as well, just because the height's a little better. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a chair or some object where we can kind of bend over at a 45-degree angle with our body. I'm going to start with my right hand. So I'm going to put my left foot staggered in front. And bracing our core here. We're going to drop our hand down. We can make a fist with our hand, and then we're going to pull that elbow straight back. So we're thinking about bringing our hand to our hip, and we're squeezing through our lat. And so this is a really good one to do with some resistance or weight, but we're also, without any weight, we're building our own resistance by really squeezing through that lat and making that mind to muscle connection. We're thinking about what muscles are being used and squeezing through our back. Let's do one more here. And we're going to switch sides. So now I'm doing my left arm. So I'm going to put my right foot slightly in front, bending forward, 45-degree angle, making that fist, and then squeezing through, pulling that wrist to hip. And working those lats. Again, engaging your core, really bracing through your abdominals. And let's do one more. Great job. All right, the last one are bicep curls, water bottle lifts. Basically, you can take something that has weight if you like a water bottle, and we can do a bicep curl. With this, we're going to keep our feet about hip width apart, bracing through our core. We're taking or keeping our elbow in tight to our body and lifting. The way I'm holding my water bottle is technically called a hammer curl. So we're working a different part of the bicep than if my hand was palm up. So if we wanted to do palm up, you could also do that. Let's switch to the other side. We're just going to do a couple bicep curls here. All right. Maybe a couple with the palm facing up. I did that on the other side. There we go. Again, building our own resistance by squeezing that muscle, really contracting. All right, we're moving right along. Let me see if I can get, looks like there's some good stuff going on in the chat, and then the recording will be available after this. Okay, moving on to our core Deskercises. And these, I think, are really fun. So we're going to go a little out of order here, but I'm going to start with the abdominal bracing because I think this is such a good foundational movement for any sort of exercise we're doing. So if we're sitting in our chair, maybe we're even on our drive home and we're at a red light. We can do this. What we're going to do is think about squeezing our abdominals together. So it's a little different than just sucking in. It's really contracting those deep abdominal muscles. So you should still be able to talk and breathe. I'm doing it right now. And again, it shouldn't impact your ability to breathe or talk. So we're squeezing through our core and we're going to hold here for 30 seconds. Again, trying to breathe. If 30 seconds feels too long for you, feel free to take a break and then join us again. Might help to put your hands on your belly so you can feel those abs really contracting. We're almost there, about 15 more seconds. Definitely starting to feel it. All right, 3, 2, 1, relax. All right, I like to start with that one because that is a really great exercise to incorporate in all of your other exercises. Anything lower body you're doing, you need to brace your core to protect your back. Anything upper body you're doing, embrace your core so you don't lose balance, so you have good coordination, so you have good stability and protect your back. So that one you can incorporate into a lot of different things. And I encourage you to practice that just while you're sitting, while you're at your desk, while you're at a red light, any sort of time. You don't really have to think too much, but I want to incorporate some physical activity. This next one is a chair swivel. I think the easiest way to do it is, it's kind of like you get to be a kid again when you do this, and it's an exercise, so it's kind of fun. What we're going to do is we're going to place our hands on the desk in front of us, and probably about like a hand distance or an arm's length distance away from you. And we're just going to swivel our chair. And so we're having to use our abs to bring our body back. And we're having to control the movement so that we don't go too far. So if you have a desk chair that can swivel like this is a great one. We're keeping our upper body straight, facing forward, picking up our feet. So we're also engaging some of our hip flexors as well as we swivel and use our core. Let's do one more to each side and then come back to the center. All right, we're going to do some crunches sitting down. I'm going to move to the edge of the chair here, just so I have a little bit of room to lean back. And I'll show you a couple different modifications. So if we're at the edge of our chair, we can place our hands above our head, and we could start to lean back a little bit, and we could bring one leg up and do a bicycle crunch. Or we could move to the edge of our chair and instead of leaning back, take some out of it and simply crunch forward. Again, doing that abdominal bracing through the entire motion. This one's a little bit easier. And then to make it even harder, you could try to keep both those feet up and do some sort of bicycle crunch or crunch like a V up, essentially sitting down. This is probably the hardest variation. So whatever feels best for you. You could also just tap those feet down. Let's just do a couple of whatever variation you find is best for you. And do one more on each side here, the bicycle crunches. All right, great job. I hope we're feeling good and warmed up now, because we're going to start now. No, I'm kidding. We're almost finishing here. We're just going to talk about our cardio Deskercises and some ways to incorporate this. Of course, you can take the stairs, use those tools that are already accessible to you. And then, of course, just moving our body. So we could start, I'm going to show you guys a couple different variations. We're not going to do all these cardio exercises. I don't want us to get super sweaty, but one option would be jumping jacks or stepping jacks. So jumping jacks are a little bit harder. We're adding some impact. So if that feels good for you, you could do 60 seconds of jumping jacks, or you could simply step and take the impact out of it. You can march in place, or you could high knee. So a couple options there. You could do a split squat jump, or you could simply do some lunges and just pick up the pace. And then of course, a 30-second dance party. That's just a fun option. If you want to dance, do some Zumba, that's a great form of cardio too. So go ahead, pick whatever sort of cardio you'd like to do. Also, the jump rope is in there as well. And we're gonna do 60 seconds of that. So starting in 3, 2, 1. Whatever you're doing, I encourage you again to engage those core muscles and take nice deep breaths through your nose and either out through your nose or your mouth slowly. Keep going. 10 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, great job. Give yourselves a round of applause. Get some water if you need it. And we're going to end with some stretches. So let's take our right arm behind our head and gently pull to stretch through our tricep. Let's do the same thing on the other side. And shake out that upper body and hang on to something for balance as we stretch through our quad. So we're going to bring that right leg up behind us, slight bend in the standing leg, and stretch through that quad muscle. And put that foot down and switch sides. Starting to slow down our breath again. Deep breaths in through the nose. I encourage you to exhale through the nose as well. And drop that foot. And if it feels good for you, we can do a forward fold. If not, you could simply extend one foot in front of you and do a hamstring stretch. Or forward fold looks like keeping your feet about hip width apart and gently folding over, reaching towards the ground. Maybe you just let your upper body hang here for a moment. Stretch through the posterior chain, so your calves, your hamstrings, your glutes. And releasing any tension you might be feeling in your neck or upper body. And slowly roll up one vertebrae at a time. We do a couple shoulder rolls at the top. That always feels good. All right, let's give ourselves a nice big hug, stretching through our upper back muscles, tucking our chin to chest. And let's reach out to the side and just open our chest up as well. Go ahead and relax. We're going to step into that lunge position again. We're not going to do lunges this time. Instead, we're going to stretch through our hip flexor. So we're going to bend both of our knees and then tilt our hips underneath us. And you should feel the stretch in that back hip flexor. If it helps, you could also lean your upper body back just a little bit to feel the stretch through your hip flexor instead of your calf muscle. We're going to straighten those hips back out to neutral, come back up and switch legs. Back into that lunge position, knees are both bent, and then we're going to tilt our hips underneath us. Maybe gently leaning our upper body back. And from here, we're actually going to go ahead and just transition into our calf stretch. So we're going to straighten out our hips and our knees. And I'm going to step and lean my weight forward, straightening on that back leg, driving the back heel into the ground, stretching through the calf muscle. If you don't really feel that very well, you could also flex your toes onto a wall and gently lean your upper body towards it. And that will stretch through your calf muscle as well. And then same thing on the other side. If you prefer the lunge version, we're driving our heel towards the ground. Our leg is straight in the back and we're kind of shifting our weight forward to really get a nice deep angle on that back ankle. Or you could use the wall. And then we're gonna do our last stretch here. I'm gonna breathe in, and as I do that, reach all the way up towards the ceiling. Long body stretch, and on our exhale, just bring it back down. Maybe we do that one more time. Inhale up, and exhale down. All right. So I wanted to leave you guys with this sample 5-minute Deskercise workout. So a dynamic warm up, kind of like we did today. Dynamic meaning you're moving through the stretches. Maybe you're doing some leg swings. You're doing some torso twists. You're, again, warming up and not doing a static hold motion. And then you're moving through a little bit of cardio, some upper body, some core, some lower body, ending with core and static stretches like we just did. So I'll send out, or I'll ask Jordan to send these slides to everyone so you have this. But this is just a sample workout for you guys.